Welcome back to On Contact. We continue our discussion about the political prisoner, Leonard Peltier, with his attorney, Kevin Sharp. So let's go into the trial. I think you laid out what the environment was like, but the egregious violations were numerous. Perhaps you can tell us what they were.
Well, and part of that, you have to understand the first two trials, because Leonard fled to Canada, believing, rightfully so, that he couldn't get a fair trial in this country. He fled to Canada. Canada would not extradite him because there was not enough evidence. Really, there was no evidence that he had killed anyone. So the case had been transferred to a judge in North Dakota, and he went ahead and tried Leonard's two co-defendants, Mr. Robideau and Mr. Butler. He also this judge let in the evidence of the reign of terror that we talked about earlier, the FBI misconduct, the threats and intimidation. Part of the way they were able to get the indictments against them was to get three young boys who were there that day to lie about what they saw. And so by lying to the grand jury, they were able to get the indictments. Those three individuals recanted that testimony during the first trial. And that, along with the evidence of the reign of terror and the FBI's involvement in that, and some of the other information, things that we've talked about today, the jury acquitted them based on self-defense. So now you've got a very angry U.S. Attorney's Office and FBI, that the people they claimed had killed these and their agents had been acquitted based on self-defense. And so there's another FBI memo that says it's now time, based on what happened, we have to turn the entire resources of the United States government into convicting Leonard Peltier, right? Not into finding out what happened, not finding out who shot who, into convicting Leonard Peltier. But the first thing they've got to do is get Leonard back from Canada. Canadians won't extradite him. There's no evidence. So they need some evidence. And what they do is they get a woman named Myrtle Pourbaix to sign an affidavit saying she is Leonard's girlfriend. She was there that day. She saw Leonard shoot them. That was enough, as it would have been had that been a truthful affidavit, for the Canadian government to extradite him. Of course they would. Turns out, though, Myrtle Pourbaix never met Leonard Peltier. And she wasn't there that day. She had no way of knowing who Leonard was. The FBI drafted this along with the U.S. Attorney's Office. Having been a federal judge, I know how these affidavits work. That ultimately, the FBI drafted this affidavit, handed it to Myrtle Pourbaix, and told her to sign it. Otherwise, they were going to take her child away from her. She had a young daughter. Well, we know that's not an idle threat, because we now know about, as most of all of the Native community is known for centuries, that the United States government would snatch children and send them to these boarding schools. So that was a real threat. And, Myrtle Pourbaix signed this affidavit. Ultimately, the Canadian government, when it was discovered that this affidavit was a lie, wanted to know what happened. The then U.S. Attorney, not James Reynolds, but his predecessor, said he was as shocked as anyone at this false affidavit. There was not one scintilla of truth in it, and that her FBI controllers, as he called them, had drafted this. Well, that's not how that works. They knew this affidavit was a lie. And that's where it kind of starts, and that gets Leonard extradited. Now, they've also got a problem, because the boys who said they saw Leonard and his co-defendants going down the hill to shoot these agents have also all recanted. So that evidence is gone. There's no evidence that Leonard was there. The evidence at the first trial, and as recorded by the office back when the two agents were chasing who they believed to be Jimmy Eagle in the red pickup truck, now they've got to change that. So that evidence gets changed, and they say, well, they thought it was a red pickup truck, but they're city boys from Denver. They don't know what a red pickup truck is. It was actually an orange and white Scout, right? So they start reverse engineering their evidence. Well, what does Leonard own? He owns his orange and white SUV. Okay, well, then they weren't chasing a red pickup truck. They were chasing the SUV. You know, they have as their one piece of evidence, the whole trial comes down to one piece of evidence. The judge, though, has excluded all evidence of the reign of terror. The U.S. attorney has one piece of evidence, a ballistics test. And their expert gets on the stand and says, we would have liked to have done a firing pin test, which would be the most accurate ballistics test we could do and prove it. But all we've got is a shell casing. And the shell casing tells us, the shell casing test tells us that this shell casing that we found at the scene came from Leonard Peltier's weapon, or a weapon like the one he had. And that was really their entire evidence. That was their case. They've got this. He did it. Turns out, they learned years later through a Freedom of Information Act request that the FBI had done a firing pin test. And it showed that it was not Leonard Peltier's weapon. They hid it. They buried it. They never turned it over. It's a blatant constitutional violation. But at that time, the standard on appeal was different than it is now. Today, the standard is, did withholding the exculpatory evidence deprive the defendant of a fair trial? And of course it did. At that time, though, the standard of review was, did withholding the evidence, or had the evidence not been withheld, would the jury probably have come to a different conclusion? And that's where the Court of Appeals says we can't say that they probably would have. They possibly would have, but we can't say probably. But now the U.S. attorney doesn't have the one piece of evidence, right? Now it shows that it wasn't Leonard who shot the agents. So they changed their theory to one of aiding and abetting. He was there and he was shooting. Well, then the question becomes, well, who did he aid and abet? Because his co-defendants were acquitted based on self-defense, which means there was no crime. So who did he aid and abet? The assistant U.S. attorney on the case says, I don't know, maybe himself, which is a legal impossibility. So essentially what you have is a guy who was there. That's what he had 2 life sentences for. He was there. Had the jury known that he was not the one who pulled the trigger, it would have been a completely different case. Certainly he would have gotten a fair trial. And that's what the Constitution requires. Just give the man a fair trial. Instead, you've got someone who spent, over 4 decades in prison for a case that, Mr. Reynolds acknowledges they don't know what happened, and there's no.
All right. Giving all praises and glories unto Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Harakakawadash, double honor to the apostles and the elders of the great millstone. Greetings, salutations, and blessings unto the hopeful elect. All right. This video is called Framing Leonard Peltier, and it's the spirit because a brother has sent this song to me years ago. I'm going to play it now. It's by Bug and Malone, which it's called And the Beat Goes On. I'm going to play it, Lord willing, and play the tribute to this man, okay, Leonard Peltier, which the purpose of it is bringing light to this devil being revealed. I'll grab that right quick. Let me see if they'll let me get it this way. Yeah, there we go. Let's go to 2 Thessalonians right quick. Chapter 2, verse 7. Start up at verse. Yep. I started at 4. It said, who exalted himself above all that is called a God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Because he had the power to rule over men's life, okay? Because he has the rulership. And who's this he we speak of? Esau. And their whole government system, okay? And we know under these curses from Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, that we've been subject to whatever this system, if you will, this pit, okay? Look that word up and its meaning, okay? That we've been cursed to be within of a man that literally was our twin brother, our elder twin brother, our evil twin brother, better said, just wanted to slay us, man, from the beginning to end. Okay, so to find vengeance, to be appeased of his vengeance, which he has an insatiable appetite for vengeance against his brother Jacob, okay, because we got the blessing which was prophesied before either one of us was born. All right, speaking of Jacob and Esau. All right, so he took that power of his rulership, of ruling with the sword, as it says in our curses, and he laid vengeance and sore strokes upon us, man. Every way that he could. And this is just one situation out of the countless situations. And this is just what's on legal books. We're going back 77 is what 30 something years now. Okay. But I can't even do the math. That's longer than 30. That's what 40, 50 years now. Okay. But when you look at how the generations of slaughtering of the Native Americans, the killing of the so-called Hispanics from Mexico, the tribe of Issachar. You look at when they went to the islands in the Caribbean, and it had the indigenous of those areas, meaning the so-called Benjamites or the West Indians, which are Israelites, the Central Americans, the so-called Puerto Ricans. You're God's chosen people, and you've been oppressed by this man for our punishment. But this is just showing you that his crimes are coming to light. All right, it says, remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, and now ye know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time. This man has been revealed in this time, and at the end of his captivity. Okay, that we're under this captivity. At the end of his rulership, he's being revealed for who he is, which is Satan, the wicked, and the devil, incarnate on the earth, man. Okay, the children of Esau. He's the one reigning terror all over the earth. He's the one that the Heavenly Father gave the rulership of the earth to, that he could punish us with a sword of destruction, because our people are following the footsteps of his wickedness, particularly the 2/3. Okay, the elect are trying to clean themselves up. All right, 144,000 and the 1/3. All right. And so now it's not a mystery who's who. You're watching his reign come to an end. You're seeing how he's trying to build his image to the beast. And that beast in the book of Revelation is speaking of these Edomite ruled nations. Okay. But particularly of Western Europe, not particularly Russia and those up there that are joined on to Russia. Okay, that's the bear, and those are the ones that are Gog and Magog, where the Western world is getting ready to go into World War III with. Okay, so prophecy is jumping off the page continually. All right, and they're talking about Ukraine and Crimea. So all of this is playing in. But this man is being revealed in these last days, and particularly in this video here, was about how, as I had up from Genesis 49, the 19th verse, which says, GAD, a troop, which the word GAD means troop, shall overcome him. But he shall overcome at the last. Yeah, he was overcame by the cavalry, and by the system this man had in place, his military system. Okay, back then we would, Revolutionary War, different wars we would fight in and be able to have the advantage because this was our land first. Okay, so speaking of North America, but then their tactics, their war tactics, their blessing of the sword that they had, we were overcome by them. Okay, but we're gonna overcome at the last. Okay, because Yahushua is gonna step in and set everything on righteousness, man. Okay, he's going to put this devil in his place. The war in heaven is going to happen. He's going to choose his elect, 12,000 of each of the 12 tribes, 144,000. And then he's also going to say the 1/3. And we're going to reign in the kingdom of heaven forever, man. Okay, in righteousness. All right, so we will overcome at the last. But so I'm going to just kind of leave this there, but I'm gonna play the video, and then I'm gonna show a few Google searches that I put up, that I pulled up, and just how this is in current event. Because they're talking about letting this man out of jail, showing his lawyer here proving that he had been framed to go to jail. So all the people, even the shooter, that killed somebody, got off on self-defense, but they couldn't let him off for aiding and abetting. But the people he was supposed to be aiding and abetting was, got off for the trial. That doesn't make sense as he put. So I'll play the Bug and Malone tribute, the song with the tribute, and the images to it that was put together, and have a little caption on the right. And the Lord will is satisfying, giving all praise and glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. To the next one. All right. Here we go.
Peltier, I am still here for you. Just to let you know you were down as warrior. United States government is doing you wrong, but the movement has proved this to the U.S. all along. The hidden documents that can free you from your cell. I pray someday you walk out of your living hell. They took most of your life, dirty long knives. To you I fly this kite to let you know I feel your strife. Clinton cheats on his wife, he had no alibi. Promised you a pardon, but they were all white lies. But he gave one to his brother-in-law, that crooked ass bastard. A new millennium and we still slaves to the masters. Peltier to 30 years denied parole, denied a fair trial, that's just the way it goes. But the beat goes on from our ancestral drums. War Peyton, AKs, devils, here we come. We'll never bow down, Mr. Bush will call you majesty. Peltier's a political prisoner, we demand amnesty and immunity from all my native communities. Together we stand, divided we fall, we need unity. The struggle continues, never forget Wounded Knee. In 1890, Ogallala, 1973, two of yours were killed compared to our millions. Your own damn people blown up government buildings. People live in glass houses, shouldn't throw stones. Peltier, my brother, man, you are not alone. Doing time for a crime that you didn't commit. The government is guilty of more than that shit. Murder one, theft, false imprisonment, and rape. Trespassing, strong arm robbery and hate. Kidnapping, slavery, and other hate crimes. You think I hate your people just because you hate mine? People like to play. There's a native on my flag. Had my medicine bag. Riding shotgun with Leonard and my warrior syndicate. Gonna pick up his check for the wrongful imprisonment. It's a damn shame, isn't it? The justice is filthy. Where's the burden of proof, innocent until proven guilty? Where is all the evidence? Release the hidden documents. You sink on this land with the only true occupants. Place in concentration, our lunar reservations. We can't beat them with violence, we'll beat them with education. Take a nation of millions to hold me back, y'all. Together we're unstoppable, divided we fall. So that brings to my attention what makes me feel ill. Let's talk about a church on top of a hill. Spill the lies when you try to expose the real movement. It's a mental war and it leaves room for improvement. The shoe fits you sellouts, you can get the hell out. Free Peltier is what I'm gonna yell out. Why do our people sway for the white man ways? Where's your heart, my brothers? Remember the good old days when we were all about the chains, ancestors flipping in graves. I'm a native pioneer, so a path I will pave. Spend 30 years of misery for my man LP. Why must he suffer when he's really not guilty? To all my warriors and Peltier's lawyers, I pray to the Creator, send my prayers out there for you. And shout goes out to the magnificent seven, and to all my warriors that are sitting up in heaven, to the innocent lives that were taking that wounded knee. Running with the buffalo, now you run free. To the murderers they killed, hope you're burning in hell. Peltier, the spirits are with you every day up in your cell. In another, smudge it all down, about to smoke for my brother. I know you feel helpless, your prayers seem hopeless, losing your focus. I'm praying when I smoke this. My sympathies go out to them too much families. The government should have been there, senseless fatalities. An innocent man has been rotting away, but the U.S. don't care. One of us has to pay, just like the Pine Ridge Reservation still has to suffer, making my people pay because of that murderer Custer. Like Floyd Westman said, he died for your sins. It was a battle the way it is, made the best man win. Think about Manifest Destiny, who gave you the ride. Abolish Indian people, hell yeah, we had to fight. Taking us and placing us in your prison camps. Have the nerve to say we're hostile and wipe us off the maps. Enslaving the blacks, took them from their motherland. And messing with the Mexican, that was their other plan. But understand, Mexico, they were all indigenous. And since the beginning of time, man, it's been continuous. I'm a Native American, American for which it stands. For what it stood for, I wonder if Custer shit his pants. Remember the gold stands, it was murder in the first. We never killed women or children sitting up in church. We were having ceremonies, practicing our religion. Killing the innocent off, is it a government tradition? Border submissions, inhumane living conditions. I seen a vision, Leonard walking out of prison.